Welcome to the Friends with Benefits podcast, a business podcast about revenue-generating partnerships, not a podcast about business time with friends. We're your co-hosting couple. I'm Jason.
And I'm Sam. Welcome to the show, friends.
Welcome back to the podcast, friends. We are so stoked for today's episode. We are getting deep in the trenches of this podcast, episode 4, 5, somewhere around there. But Sam, hello.
Hey, friends. We're excited to see you again, to talk with you. But mostly, we're so pumped about this guest that we have. I am especially excited because, Jill, you are our first female guest. So, yeah, we're very, very excited to have you here.
Absolutely. You know, no stranger to SaaS, ecosystems, selling, or even Orange Theory, as we were just talking about. So I think there's going to be a lot to talk about in this episode, and especially around what you've built in your career. We were joking last night that it looks like you've closed more revenue than most of us carry as a quota throughout a year. So really excited to see how you've built your relationships and partnerships and community throughout your career. So everybody, please welcome to the show, everyone's friend, Jill Rowley.
Hey, friends. And I do feel like my community, our community, we're friends, right? We want to help each other. I want to do business with people I like, right? And that I trust.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what partnerships are all about, relationships. If outside of business, like Sam and I are partners, and we have to have that relationship and everything that goes into it to even begin to go down that path of love in our case, right? So you got to do the same thing with the people you're working with.
No doubt. And I think we're most excited to have Jill because not only are you our first female, but you are our first perspective from a revenue side of the business, from the selling side of the business. So partnerships are nothing without sales. So we're really excited to dig into kind of your perspective on how you've built those bridges and the community around you. And honestly, you were kind of one of the first to pave the way for how partnerships can successfully help you drive your quota, but help your customers find success. And so let's get into it. We got a lot to talk about today. We're really excited about it. So,
well, I would argue that partnerships are from the side of the revenue house, right? And that's a misunderstanding that partnerships aren't on the revenue team. And holy smokes, they are absolutely part of the revenue team. And as we all believe, they need to be a bigger part of the revenue team because partnerships drive exponential revenue.
100%.
Absolutely.
I do agree with that. And it's funny to get these different perspectives on partnerships. We had Justin Keller on the show where he thought, partnerships should be rolled up in their marketing function, and sales like we're a revenue function, and we are a weird hybrid of people and individuals and the work that we're providing. So it's really fun to get the perspective, and that's one of the things with this podcast that I felt was so important is that we have perspective from the BUs, the business units within our companies that we are tasked to build relationships with as partnership leaders. So before we get too far down the rabbit hole, we've got to ask our initial question. We like to ask all of our guests, in the context of B2B partnerships, what does the term friends with benefits mean to you?
Well, first, friends care about each other, right? So I really think it comes down to caring. And I thought about this, right? What does friends with benefits mean in the context of B2B partnerships? And I think the whole thread is caring. And we care about each other's individual success, collective success. We care about the market success. We care about the customer success. And so I think if you don't care, then you're not really friends. So you got to care.
People do business with people. Absolutely. Before this, we were chatting a little bit and you kind of gave us a sneak peek onto a story that weaves perfectly into this a little bit. I'm not even going to set the stage. Can you just tell us about Evan?
Yes. Yeah. Who is Evan?
So Evan is my hairstylist and I went and saw him yesterday. So
He did a great job.
You do great work, Evan, if you're listening.
He said the ultimate is when one of his clients is walking down the street and someone stops them to say, I love your hair. Where did you get it done?
Hey, that's referrals at its finest.
Well,
That's true.
And that's kind of part of it. Like, he's not on Instagram. That's not the audience, the ideal client profile that he's trying to attract. He actually is more in that natural, authentic, comfortable with who you are zone. And we were talking about a number of things because he and I, we can get deep. We were talking about ChatGPT too, and AI and how that's revolutionizing even the hair business.
Yeah. Can tell ChatGPT to show you a new hairstyle. Take it to Evan, and he'll make it happen for you.
Yeah, and the owner of the salon was there too, and we were talking about ChatGPT because AI is everywhere right now. But really at the foundation, we were talking about relationships. And Evan, there's a stylist in the salon that went to rehab for 3 months, and this is a very popular salon, and they have lots of clients. And Evan wanted to be part of the team that took care of his colleagues' clients. And there can be this skepticism of when I'm out and Evan is working with my clients, is he going to try to poach my clients? Is he going to try to build this relationship with them? And then when I come back, he's going to like corner them into, being his client. And that is a completely different mindset from which Evan operates. Evan wanted to take the best care of his colleagues' clients for the benefit of the client and making the client feel good and get the service that she needed. And also his colleague in taking care of the client and giving the client the best service that she expected. And it was this, okay, well, when your colleague comes back, what do you do? And he said, it's all up to the customer. It's all up to the client. And if for some reason they want to stay with me, my colleague is okay with that. There's this mutual like respect and understanding. But at the core, it's really about taking care of the client while also taking care of your colleagues.
Absolutely. And there's a really good team player mentality within that I think anybody could really learn from, especially in our space, right? In the SaaS world where, PTOs abide, sabbaticals, unlimited vacations, and hell, even, to a different context, like all the rifts that are happening in our space, and someone's got to step in, be the team player, and provide, for those customers simply because they need someone to provide for them and to provide that value and to actually care.
And even beyond that, though, I think like where I was hearing is like sometimes partners are nervous to go to market together because there could be some conflicts of interest. But to Jill's point, if you put the customer at the center of everything, then the rest should just fall by the wayside. Everybody wins if the customer succeeds. And it sounds like that's kind of the mindset that Evan had, and him and his colleague kind of rallied around, which I love.
Well, and it was also like Evan has a certain customer that he wants to work with, and he doesn't do services that would attract that kind of customer that isn't his ideal client profile. So example,
good
like,
on him.
I love it. Like, he doesn't do extensions. He doesn't do wedding hair. And so and hence part of like why he's not on Instagram, because we talked about, people getting fillers and getting Botox and getting Brazilian butt lifts and getting boob jobs and all these things. And it's sad. Like, we think it's kind of sad how, social media has driven a lot of young and mid-age and older women and men to search this ideal, which isn't ideal in my mind because it's fake. No judgment if that's what's of interest to you, but he would rather work with the au naturel, right?
Uh-huh.
Someone who wants to look her best, but wants to look her authentic best, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
100%.
And authentic and genuine comes down to, like, at the end of the day, who people are and how people decide who they want to work with. They want to work with those that are real, no fake stuff, right? And I think, to wrap this up, I think we probably should try to get Evan on the podcast. Sounds like he'd be a great guest and could really bring some strong points to what generates value and trust in relationships. But I do have another hot take for you. You have a unique take on the Glenn Ross acronym for ABC. If you recall, his was always be closing, and coffee is for closers. So tell us about your acronym and what that means to you.
Sure. So ABC, always be closing. The customer doesn't want to be closed, right? So
exactly.
We always have to think about things through the lens of the customer, and you're in there closing and the customer doesn't want to be closed. They want to be helped, right? And they want to be helped at the point of need, and they want to buy when they're ready to buy. So the always be closing is the cheesy, sleazy, slick back, always be closing sales professional, salesperson, I should say. I know that your network is your net worth. I have seen that in my career. And instead of closing, how about connecting? And it's always be connecting. I say not necessarily with everyone. It isn't like you're connecting with everyone and anyone, but it's always be connecting throughout anything that you're doing. Right? It's connecting each other, connecting with each other. It's connecting dots. It's connecting people to resources. It's connecting others. It's connecting to community, right? It isn't just LinkedIn connections, but it's always be connecting.
There's so much value in the connecting aspect of it alone. And one of the things I'd like to kind of get your take on here is what you just said, is that customers don't want to be closed. They want to be helped. And helping is, providing value, being that trusted resource and advisor. How do we begin to shift the mentality of some of these, old guard sales leaders, CROs and whatnot, to let them better understand, like, listen, customers, don't want to be closed or treated like they're being hunted, as I've heard you say, but more so around like how we can help them and be an advisor to them.
It's always shining the spotlight on those who are doing it right, those who are crushing quota, who are blowing out the numbers, who have the companies that have the greatest customer loyalty, rabid partner fans. So when we look at who's excelling, and we find those that are doing it the right way, the modern way, and we talk more about that, and we congratulate and applaud more of that, then we learn the new way, right? So we need to see the rubber meets the road with revenue in revenue leaders, and so they need to see other revenue leaders who are doing it the way that the buyer wants us to be doing it, and really celebrate that.
No doubt.
Yeah, I agree. So it sounds like a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of intentional celebration. So in the context of always be connecting, what does that look like for you to continue connecting at this stage in your career? And, what does it look like for Joe Rowley to be out in the wild connecting?
I do every day. Like I am always connecting, and I can just pull up my LinkedIn, Messenger. I am obviously very interested in ecosystems, partnerships, and communities. I am finding myself in a category evangelist, a role, not an official or formal role with any company or any entity, but I'm finding myself in this category evangelism. And I'm also, as I mentioned, with Evan and ChatGPT and AI, and really, trying to understand how does this fit into the world of B2B SaaS, particularly around go-to-market. Very intrigued with Jasper and Writer. I was at Pavilion's CMO Summit and saw them on stage, and then I just attended another Q&A with May from Writer. She's incredible, just so articulate, so passionate, so beautiful, so driven. And I was at LinkedIn feed and saw Harry Stebbings post about professional services, and in particular around AI, and how there's going to be a need for a new breed of professional services organizations to help make AI do what it's capable of doing. And then I saw this guy, Matt Sobel, who I don't know, and he commented about Writer and their partnerships with consulting strategic alliances with consulting organizations. And I was like, boom, right? Services, partners, AI, all these dots, like bing, 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 all these dots started connecting. And so I went to Matt's profile. Funny enough, Matt and I only had like 5 shared connections. He comes from a sales background, an AE background, and this is his first partnerships role at Writer. So Writer, one of the hottest AI companies, hires a guy who's never been in partnerships to be a partner manager. He's commenting in week 1 into his role at Writer about partnerships. I go to Writer's website and look to see if they have a partner directory or a partner marketplace. I do a little bit of research. I screenshot that on the post, the LinkedIn post of Matt. So I'm engaging with Matt, bringing more attention to Matt and this topic. Matt sends me an invite to connect on LinkedIn, and we just start going back and forth. And it is like, I'm like, how freaking excited are you to be early in partnerships at Writer? He's like, oh my God, it's a dream job. And then we just went on and making all these connections to Liz Kane Christo at Stage 2 Capital. She's an early investor in Writer. I asked him about his IPP, his ideal partner profile. I asked him like all these questions. He then asks me like, why'd you reach out? Like, what's of interest? And we just went on. And I'm telling you, I'm so excited about this new connection with this fairly junior person, new to partnerships in a really cool industry. And I want to be part of helping him drive the industry forward. I want to get him on Partner Hacker podcast. I want him to be a member of Partnerships Leaders. Like, I want to like get his current state, new to partnerships, and watch this story unfold.
Let's get him on the podcast here. Learn about the relationships he's building early on now and how they're going to affect in the future. So that'd be great. Would love that. And I can also, I am also, victim of the always be connecting. I woke up one morning to a series of DMs from Jill, and I was like, oh, I've never talked to Jill once, but here we are communicating about a job that I'm now in. So it was really fun to see you're still out there, despite all the success you've had. And a lot of people, kind of get to that level. They're like, whatever, I don't need to do this anymore. But you're still out there actively connecting.
Just heard you say too, to like close the circle on this, is every conversation you have, you're invested in, you pay attention to, and you care. And right in that moment when you're having that conversation, it may not be obvious which dots that connects to. But as you continue to have more and more, your world is going to expand, your network is going to get smaller, and those dots, and that makes you an extraordinarily valuable person, not only for your company, but for your network. Like, that is partnerships in summation.
Absolutely. Even back to our first episode, like we were talking about making our circles bigger to be able to provide that value to those within those circles. So like continuing to expand the circles is the result of always be connecting.
Yeah, it's bigger, but it's deeper, right? It's this whole like bigger network, but deeper, more meaningful relationships within that. It's very much like your partner strategy. There's this whole ecosystem of potential partners, and you can't partner with everybody because there isn't value for the customer to partner with everybody. And there's not unlimited resources. So you're aware of this bigger ecosystem, and then you think about where should the dots connect, right? Where do the connections make sense for the benefit of the customer and or the community at large, right? So we think about our own world and our organization, but we think about the community more broadly.
Very much so. And I love that you said that, because I think Jason and I talk about that often over dinner of mac and cheese with our kids. But that lots of people are building like these partner marketplaces that are massive, and there's no depth to them, as you say. Like if you actually get in and look under the hood, these partnerships are just there on the surface, but they're not really providing value, A, to the customer, but B, to the business. And I think you're so spot on. There's not enough resources. Relationships take effort and time, and it's not a one-time transactional thing. So
yeah, I think it's Justin Zimmerman who says integrations don't equal partnerships.
yes.
Yep, that's him.
And on top of that, like one of the most interesting, successful companies with one of the most robust ecosystems, HubSpot, I still have people come to me and ask for HubSpot agency. And it's because there's too much to sort through. And sure, we're going to marketplaces for discovery, but we really want to talk to a human who has the inside track on knowing what you know about me as a company, me as a person, what I'm trying to accomplish, what HubSpot partner would you recommend? So you need that context around, okay, HubSpot partner is very broad. What are you trying to accomplish? What size is your business? What's your other tech infrastructure? Like all of those things, that contextual aspect of it.
Yeah,
No
people
doubt.
will always find a way to go find those people that know who they should be working with and talking to. So it's all about the who.
It is about the who. I've always like people say, it's all about who you know. I say it's about who you know and what you know about who you know, right? So who you know, what you know about who you know. But probably more important is who knows you and what do they know about you, right? How do they feel about you? What do they know about you? It is this two-way, right? It's this two-way of I know you, you know me, rather than, it's someone that knows me. Do you know John? I'm like, the better question is, does John know me? Because if John doesn't know me, I can't get you to John, even though I know John.
Very true.
Right. Yeah, and to that point, like, we're both near-bound advocates and evangelists, and I love that, Isaac is now starting to phrase this as, we're no longer in the how economy, where people would go to Google and search, like, how do you do this? Looking for blogs, looking for content. That stuff is reserved for recipes now. How do I cook my, filet mignon kind of thing? But now it's about who. That's the who economy that we're in. So we're going to our community for our searches. We're going to our Joe Rowleys, our Sams. We're going to people like, who do you know within this ecosystem that I should be working with, aka the HubSpot instance? How do you know when a relationship is the right one and who to trust to facilitate that process with? So like who, does your who become?
I can go back to my time at Marketo, for example, and talking about partners that made sense for Marketo was sometimes different than partners that made sense for Marketo customers. Let me walk that down.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Marketo, when I joined, had been taken private by Vista Equity Partners. So Vista, big PE firm. I joined a year into that going private. Private equity, the way they make money is selling the company or the company going public, right?
Right.
So they can sell the company to an Adobe, a Salesforce, a Microsoft, or anyone else, or they can take that company public, or they can get another private equity firm to buy it from them. So, going into this, like there's an exit, right? PE is looking for an exit. And so there is this understanding of who could acquire Marketo, right? There are only so many companies that are big enough that could actually acquire Marketo. And the players, Microsoft, Salesforce, Adobe, SAP.
Let's get small real quick.
And when we look at it through the lens of where do we have overlap in ICP, it eliminates, in my mind, SAP.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
However, Vista and Steve Lucas, the CEO of Marketo and my boss, he had come from SAP. So he has really strong relationships at every level at SAP. Vista has really strong relationships with SAP. And so we start to go down this path of partnering with SAP. I see it from a strategic exit possible potential, not really, but possibly it would have been a bad acquisition, much like SAP acquired Qualtrics, and that turned out to not be good for the SAP customers or good for the Qualtrics customers. And so we started down the path of how do we partner, and it wasn't in the benefit of our customers. So that partnership didn't work out. Right?
I like that. Not for the benefit of our customers. And it's about really understanding that and knowing that. And like, you've really got to your point, care about your customers to know if it's to their benefit or to their advantage or not. And I think that's where a lot of people miss out, and they just kind of see dollar signs, numbers, brands, or whatever. But if the brand doesn't align to what your customer actually wants or to what you're building, like, then it doesn't make sense to go down that path.
It's all for naught.
I mean, another example is one that's really near and dear to my heart is Eloqua Oracle.
Mm-hmm.
So, Eloqua, I started my sales career at Salesforce, and Salesforce was like the number one strategic partner of Eloqua. And in 2011, we won Salesforce's business. They became an Eloqua customer, which was my goal from day one of joining Eloqua, is to get Salesforce as an Eloqua customer. And I actually have the trophy. I don't know if you can see the trophy.
There it is.
That's amazing.
It was 3,321 days in the pipeline. Yeah.
That's a sales cycle.
Yeah. Calculated from day one when I joined Eloqua to August 17th, 2011, when we closed the deal. Eloqua,
Persistence pays off, kids.
they haven't bought yet, right? It's not we haven't closed them. It's they haven't bought yet. Very different than closing them. And in 2012, we went public. And that was great. I got to be on the NASDAQ and celebrating and awesome and so cool. And then 4 months later, December of 2012, Oracle acquired Eloqua. And I knew that was the beginning of the end.
Exactly.
Of the culture and the care for our customers. And it was really heartbreaking. I'd certainly made like 7 figures on the deal, but I knew that it was the beginning of the end of Eloqua, the community and the customer love that we had created over the decade that I had been there.
Yeah, and I think I want to dive into that a little bit, because if you I feel like if anybody listens to you speak at all or reads anything that you talk about, customers are like, you are the most customer-centric person out there. And, we've talked about this a little bit, but so many go-to-market people are focused on this quote-unquote ICP, and they like make a slide with a picture and, this is Rebecca, and we don't go any further. I mean, it's super transactional. And to your comment, it's like, close Rebecca, make Rebecca buy. And there's no relationship there. I even was joking. It's like, we could go to your LinkedIn and say, hey, Jill, I saw you went to University of Virginia. I've also been to Virginia. Let's connect. Like, that doesn't land, people. And yet some people try that. So I want to hear about your experience as a seller. It's one thing to say, like, get to know your customers, but you really do that. So how do you get to know your customers in a way that matters? And then how do you build those relationships over 3,000 days that make you become a legendary seller?
It isn't overnight, right? Everyone's asking for like the one thing or the one piece of advice or the most important thing you do. It isn't that. It is a continuous building, nurturing, giving, listening. This is not something that happens in a LinkedIn invite and now you know your customer. Things like, I love listening to podcasts of my customers. I love listening to the podcast before they become a customer, because when I reach out, I then have that context, right, of what they care about, of what they've accomplished. There's this researching of that person. I'll read their LinkedIn recommendations and I'll get a sense of like, what are their strengths? What do people admire about them? What are words that other people use to describe them? And when I reach out on LinkedIn, I'll even cite specific things that have been like, when's the last time you read your 23 recommendations on LinkedIn? Take a minute out of your day and go remind yourself of how amazing you are, right?
That's awesome. It's like the G2 reviews of individuals.
And that's not, we went to UVA, Virginia, the Virginia state bird or the flag or the whatever it is. That's like, I care about you as a human. And I actually want to open up with, you're great, right? Don't forget how awesome you are. Because I think we do. We forget how awesome we are. And it's
Absolutely.
great to have those reminders.
Especially in today's crowded world, too. I mean, like, if I got that, I would drop everything to be like,
Who is this
well, I'm
person?
responding to Jill. She just made me feel amazing.
Exactly. And doing it in a way which it feels authentic and real. Going back to that, it's like there's a lot of that missed out on being able to just authentically connect with people, especially over the devices of like a LinkedIn, and making it feel genuine.
Yeah, this isn't modern trickery, right? It isn't like I'm going and I'm finding these things and I'm tricking you into trust, right?
Right.
I can't trick you into trust, or if I trick you into trust and it can immediately be revealed. What do they say? Trust is built over time and it's lost in an instant. So this is, you can't fake it till you make it in this regard. This is authentic day one through and through.
So I want to take this another direction too, because I think trust it's the foundation for everything, for our partner, or for our relationships with our customers, for our relationships with our partners, but also our relationships with our internal partners. So one of the things we were really excited to chat with you about, as we mentioned, is being from the revenue side, being a seller. So Jason and I talk to partnership people all day long. And one of the things we hear most frequently is alignment. Like, my sales team doesn't get it. They aren't bought in. So, with your background, where is the disconnect, and how can partner people build that trust internally with sales individuals?
It's good.
A lot of times we don't understand the world in which the other lives, right? It's even, I'll even liken it to my husband. We've been married 19 years. We have very different communication styles. And he is super nice, and I am more edgy. Let's call it that. And I want him to be less, hey babe, and and more like, how's your day? Rather than, hey babe. And but that's who he is. And I have to keep reminding myself that is who he is. It's his authentic self.
Exactly.
And then also keep reminding him that when I'm more edgy, that is who I am. And we have to respect who each other is and understand our different communication styles. So if we don't understand the other person and what their job is, how they're measured, how they're motivated, what they care about, the knowledge that they have or don't have, the tools that they have or don't have, the skills that they have or don't have. We have to be able to put ourselves in their shoes. And I think internally, we don't know enough about what the other functions do. And even within functions, understanding how the entire function works. Marketing is a great example. There are so many different moving parts of marketing, and search engine optimization versus brand versus demand versus marketing ops versus product marketing versus competitive intel versus sales enablement, and how that all fits together, and having that cohesive understanding within a function and then across the functions. So I think we need, even at the AE level, I need to know more about the why of partnerships, the what partnerships, and the how partnerships. I need to understand in the context of the job that I have to do.
Exactly.
And so this internal a celebration, this internal I don't even like the word alignment, because alignment's like we're standing next to each other, we're aligned, rather than this hugging, this partnering. I use the word partnering, sales and marketing partnership, because if we're just aligned, we're not actually partnering. I'd rather partner than align with, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
And I do have something I want to expand on in that, but I've got to go back to one thing. So we talked about hubby being all hey babe, and you're being the edgy one. What is it that Jill says? If his is hey babe, what is Jill's equivalent of hey babe?
Just text me.
I love it. Yes. What a modern gen person you are here. I love that. So you're talking about understanding the other person, walking about in their shoes, getting to know them. It's kind of astounding to me how many conversations I find myself in where some of these, partner people, managers, leaders, whatever you want to call it, aren't equipped enough to stand in those conversations and talk marketing, talk sales, talk product. So let's go back to your friend who's starting at Ryder. How are you encouraging a Ryder partner person to begin to establish and build those relationships and to win those hearts and minds over across all the teams that he needs to be close with?
So what I think is really interesting about Matt at Ryder is he comes from an AE background. So he's walked in the shoes of the sales team that he will need to partner with on deals, right? He's on the services partner side with the large strategic service providers, and he's focused on specific verticals at this point in time. So financial services, tech, healthcare, retail, e-commerce, and he's walked a mile in the sales shoes. When he works with the sales team that covers healthcare, then he narrows it down to the partners who also cover healthcare. He's not talking about, the 10 partnerships. He's talking about the 3 that are relevant to that vertical within that is relevant to the sales organization. Right now, because he's new to partnerships, I want to help him understand what it takes to be a great partner manager. And so I want to connect him to partnership leaders, Partner Hacker, and I will then direct him to content specific to partner marketing, partner sales, partner success, partner product, co-build, co-market, co-sell, co-deliver, and really give him the lens of partnerships, not as a separate function, but this partner threading, right?
Mm-hmm.
Partner stitching and weaving partners throughout the other functional groups within the organization, and giving him, just also specific the who has successfully built partner marketing, co-marketing, who has successfully worked on partner sales, and even more so in the services area, right? So he isn't in tech integration partner team. So he's on professional services partner team. So just really niche it down for him.
Sure.
And give him people who have been to the promised land that can actually help him get up to speed much more quickly to earn the trust and speak the language of the internal stakeholders that he needs to get partnered up with.
Yeah. We're back to connecting the dots within the community.
Totally.
And
Yep.
I think the foundation, this comes up in a lot of the conversations we have, but everything you just described is curiosity. So even if you don't know the language of your customers or your partners, internal or external, just do the research. Find out, ask questions. Like no one's gonna shame you for trying to learn more about what their metrics are, how you can help, how you can fill holes. In my opinion, I think being curious and being scrappy are two of the most important things for partner people. So we've talked a lot about different types of relationships. We've even talked about your 19-year marriage. How, in your perspective, can individuals align their personal values and purpose with their business partnerships? And for you, is there a clean or a blurry line between like, these are my business relationships and these are my personal relationships, or is it fluid?
For me, it's fluid. And I love B2B SaaS go-to-market people. I feel really comfortable in a room of CMOs. And I feel a lot less comfortable going into the environment I'm going in tonight, which is a mom's celebration of our senior high school graduating daughters in Charleston, South Carolina, where no one in the room has had the career that I have had in, innovative, cutting edge, changing the world software. And
oh my gosh, you and I need to have another podcast about just that right there.
It's like that's when I have imposter syndrome, is when I walk into the room with all of these moms, and I won't say like there are dentists and lawyers, just maybe one or two in this room of moms, and I have struggled. Friendships outside of my B2B SaaS world, I find that my friends are in my business world more so than PTA or Snack Shack, those kinds of things.
Yep. I feel this
that
in my
becomes our
bones.
community and our circles, right? That's where the people that we can most relate to have become. And like, I'm kind of the same way. I'm with you. I love this space. Some of my best friends that I'm texting on a regular basis are those that I've partnered with in the past. And I think that just speaks to like all three of us. Like Sam, I know you're the same way, as like our ability to build relationships and, build purpose-built relationships. So as we come to a landing here, I do have a kind of a, more of a tip question, kind of tactical, right around what we were just talking about. What would you say are your top 2 or 3 tips for establishing trust in this era of partner ecosystem, as you like to call it?
Let me add one more thing on before you answer that too, because a lot of times for new partner people, your CRO or whoever you're reporting to says, and do it fast.
Yeah, do it fast is not. It's just with partnerships, they're longer term, right?
Yeah.
And they finding the right partners that map to the stage of the business that you're in, the market that you're in, the competitive landscape, the economic environment, those things on your side of the house. We've talked a lot about the right partners that benefit your customers, right? I don't think we need to go back to that, but that is number one. But you you really have to understand all the other things that you're faced with. I was talking with someone the other day, and he is in tech partnerships, has a team of 10, and the company is cutting back on
Wow.
partnerships. And one of their like key partners went and built the functionality that they used to partner with. And it's meh, right? What they built is meh, and what the partner brings is way better for the customer. But in this economic environment, they're preserving, right, and trying to keep all of that ARR and owning the customer. And that is a risk, right, in partnerships if you don't have two executive alignment. I think that you can have partner managers and you can be co-marketing and you can co-selling, but if the executives don't stay involved in that strategic partnership, then that's when someone goes off and builds a competitive product, right? So let's not forget about keeping our executives aligned in partnership with our strategic partners.
Absolutely. Love it.
I do want to ask one question. I have to, since you're our first female guest. So thank you for taking risks and leading by example throughout your phenomenal career. What do you think are the superpowers women in tech have that are often overlooked or not taken advantage of?
Here's the thing. I didn't realize that how much women were disadvantaged in business. And shame on me, right, for not really seeing that. I was always comfortable walking in a room with all men. I didn't feel uncomfortable. I actually thought, wow, this is cool because I'm really going to stand out. You know, when you're different, then you stand out. And when when you're trying to earn attention, you want to stand out. You don't want to blend in. Yeah. And I think that women oftentimes are more comfortable blending in, and that limits us.
Yeah.
We have to get more comfortable standing out. Now, on the flip side, with women blending in, they're usually bringing other people, you know, with them and around them so that they can blend in. And we want to do that while also standing out. We can stand out and still bring others with us. So I would encourage more women to have the confidence. I think a lot of women lack the confidence. Men, for some reason, maybe they're better at faking it till they make it, or maybe they're just born more confident.
Did you always have that confidence? Was it something that you had to like work to build up?
If we go back to cheerleading auditions in 7th grade, and we've got a panel of judges, and it's my first cheerleading tryout, and I run out the gym floor, and I am doing spirit fingers and running from side to side in front of the judges and making eye contact and doing my jumps and my cheers. And the other girls are just like, they're paralyzed because here I am, fearless and bold, but cheerleaders are supposed to have a lot of spirit. And I
100%.
wasn't trying to like take away from the other girls who were trying out with me. I was just doing what I thought great.
Showing up for the job.
Exactly.
Showing up for the job. Exactly.
That's hilarious. We won't dive into this. We'll wrap up for time's sake, but I learned a lot of my confidence in front of people in high school as the high school mascot. So I can completely relate, like having to act a fool in front of other people when no one else would. And that's kind of my mantra to this day, 20 years later. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. Let's ask the final friend question. We've got a hot question for you. We like to kind of wrap up with something fun, engaging, and kind of on topic with the title of the podcast here. So, Joe Rowley, best place in Charleston, South Carolina for a first date with a customer?
Orange Theory.
Oh,
God,
Plot
you're trying to kill him your
twist.
first date.
Yeah, I had to say it. Seriously, I love turning people on to Orange Theory, and regardless of the fitness level, I tell my women in the in the PTA that here, like, let's go to Orange Theory, and they're intimidated. Like, it's all fitness levels, right? You don't
Nice.
have to run a 6:14 mile like I do. I will champ.
stop it. Do you really?
That's my
This-
PR. Is
Wow.
Can't even have it.
Yeah, and I'm 50, so yeah, I'm
We're
pretty.
gonna get a
amazing.
run-in together at the next event.
That's the only leaderboard I'm appearing on these days. So
That's
You earned that
amazing.
though.
Yeah.
yeah, so, I mean, there are plenty of other places, but a stroll down the Battery. You go to the beach. I love just going and walking on the beach. Going to Pose pub,
Pose is great.
Sullivan's Island. Like, there's so many things, but let's get pumped up and let's go to Orange Theory.
Have
Yeah.
an experience together. I love it.
Yeah. And then take me out for oysters later.
Yeah.
We can eat whatever we want after Orange Theory.
Love it.
Well, Jill, I could talk to you for another 2 hours. So thank you so much for the time today, though. I know we thoroughly enjoyed this. Put your customer first, get to know people, and give a damn, I think would
Yeah.
be kind of the conclusions of this conversation.
And being different is your superpower is one thing I wrote down. So
Yeah,
don't be afraid to be different and authentic. That is different sometimes.
exactly. Thank you both. This was super fun. Superpower,
Absolutely.
power couple, mom, dad, friend, partnership people. This was really fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We're having way too good of a time to be getting paid for this.
This is true.
Let's do it again in Montana.
Absolutely. Say when.
Done.
Cool.
Okay,
Well,
good.
thank you so much, Jill. Wonderful to have you.
All right.
Thanks, friends. We'll
Okay,
see you
bye,
next
friends.
time.
Do, 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 do.